especially when you become a leader, it's so hard to become authentic and have real relationship with people if you live two lives.
I know who you're talking about.
Hi everybody, welcome to Offscript by the Wild and Wise podcast. We have Ben, we have Vincent, and we're going to get straight into the topic of furthering our conversation around reinvention and what really is an OS transformation and an OS change in the journey of reinvention. So in my view, like OS means operating system change. That means your mindset change, how you react, how you behave, how you feel, how you naturally are more mastered in the way you are handling situations shifts. So in our discussion today, like what do you feel would be the fundamentals of OS change in the journey or the theme of reinvention? You know, so what do you think? Like what does that sound like, feel like to you? Yeah.
Maybe we can set the stage of the OS or operating system, right? So I think we talk about a personal operating system as opposed to, or rather use that as an analogy in what we're familiar with, which is an operating system that allows us to be able to both frame this reinvention that we want to take place, but also allows us to sort of determine what are the gaps that we need and what we need to fill to be able to get there, right? So I think, in my view, a personal operating system or personal OS kind of comprises of things like Ben talked about this a bit, like muscles and tools, right? Like, what are the gaps in my capabilities, my thinking that I need to fill? What are the sort of tools that can enable me to be able to sort of transform and reinvent myself to this version that I feel are better aligned with what I want to become, or based on, certain metrics or things that I've set out for this reinvention, right? So I think, to me, it's more like we need to, or you kind of want to change before you have to. You want to be able to look at reinventing yourself or look at certain things that you want to sort of transition towards. And a personal operating system or personal OS is just a way to think about, the structure of what is needed to be able to get there.
It doesn't have to be structured, but we all have a personal operating system, right? Even from young. Most of us use the out-of-the-box system that comes with it, that's shaped by friends in school and how we grew up and all that, and we go, that's the de facto.
Yeah.
I guess the question and discussion we are having today is, how do you be more deliberate about how you upgrade and what you bring to it? I've been thinking about this subject matter a lot lately. I guess to me, an operating system is something that helps you manage things like time, your attention, and your energy, so that you can achieve the goals that you want, right? And so operating systems, typically when people have conversations around it, it typically includes things like, what are your beliefs? It starts with your beliefs, right? What kind of habits, how you make decisions, most of all, and then what kind of actions that you take.
Outcomes.
I was thinking about it this morning, and the analogy to me came from, you think about when you were young, 5 years old. What do you want to be when you were 5?
Man, I want to be like a policeman or a fireman, man.
Policeman, fireman,
pilot.
Random as hell.
Pilot and all that kind of stuff, right? And we go, okay, that's what we want to be, but we don't have the operating system that allows us to go, okay, I want to work towards whatever I want to be, whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, or space or astronaut or whatever it is. But on the flip side, you think about prodigy athletes or prodigy musicians, for example. When they were young and you look at the discipline they put into their lives in order to get to being a professional athlete by the time they're 15, 18, 20, whatever that is, right? Daily practices, the nutrition that they have, removal of bad habits, for example. So that's an example of having an operating system that allows you to get to the goals that you want by managing time, attention, energy, and etc. That's how I would think about it.
Yeah. For me, the OS, mindsets. So essentially, understanding of self, so like your beliefs, your values, your priorities, and actually mastery of your emotions. Like totally. You are able to know what your strengths are, to know how you're firing, and where these feelings come from. You know, I think self-mastery is so powerful, but when you're able to have that anchors, the stability there, you're able to really build on where you want to go. So it's about your mindset, your beliefs, all these kind of things kind of forming, and then and it also changes through life, you know, as you get older. How people are disciplined versus not so disciplined. How you know, someone else who's not disciplined can also be extremely successful. Right. Maybe not. I don't know. Like, you know, maybe it's just their way of that. But the discipline could apply in many situations in life. Could be work. Could be creation. Could be creativity. You know, it's so by having a sense of self, understanding where you are super adaptable into knowing where your bench, your feelings are. You know, you're in this situation. I am going to throttle up a few things that I know that I'm going to put myself in prime position to win. Right, and I mean, coming from a strengths perspective, that's how I always talk about it.
Agree.
You know, you have your strengths, your 5-10 strengths that you know of, and then you are able to dial up and dial down. Right. Okay, you know, so you go from there.
But I guess it's that balance between where I want to be and how I can stretch and be what I want to be, and also what you're saying, right? Having the right values, and authentic sense of self, which was what Paul talked about last week, right? I mean, you think about an example where I say that as part of my belief system and my OS, I'm going to exercise every morning. Right. But if I don't value that personally, right? And I don't believe that it helps me, for example, then it's very hard for me to achieve that, for example. So it has to also at some point be something that's authentic to you, and be part of your value system and your belief system.
So values are what you're going to be prioritizing, basically. If you value your health, then I'm going to prioritize my health. Right. If it's gonna value time with family, then I'm gonna spend time with family over work. Right. So understanding of what your cores are, that will really anchor you to make the decisions that will be in line with what's you, right? You know, and then setting the vision is one thing. So setting a vision is about, okay, I want to achieve certain goals in career, family, life. Again, there are such dimensions, and it's so multi-layered if you talk about it, right?
But I think it's a pull down of that as well, because once you've established like those values or principles and what is important, then the question is, how do you get there, right? And I think where personal OS comes in is really the systems kind of thinking of getting you there, right? Like, you know, I mean, I always like to use quotes like, how you live your day is how you live your life. So how do you make sure that you have these things in place every day so that you get to where you want to, because you can have a vision and a dream of something. Right. And I think, I mean, we talked a little bit about this earlier, before, right? Which is the corollary, where it's very similar to personal transformation, and business transformation is very similar, right? You think about the where to play, how to win, but then you still need to close the gaps on capabilities, processes to get there. And I think the operating system is that downstream of the gaps and things you need to do to be able to, you know, get to the person that you want to reinvent yourself to, the person that you want to be, right? I mean, you think about strategy as a definition is the case where, and this is what I tell my kids, you can do anything you want, but you can't do everything. So you have to make choices. And then once you have those choices, then how do you get there?
Correct. But I guess a lot of it applies not just wanting to get there, but people who are in the midst of the last time we spoke, we talked about people who feel like change is coming, right? And so what do you do about that? And part of it also is rethinking your operating system, how you. Sometimes when you get into a new role, for example, so when you know, and with Paul, we talked about getting to management very early on, right? And shifting how you behave. What got you here won't get you there, that kind of thinking, right? And that forces you to think about your operating system as well. Upgrading your operating system, rethinking that. And also, if you go, I know in 5 years' time, there's another pivot in my career, or I want to have another pivot in my career, then how does your operating system allow you to get there? I think that is also another different lens to how you think about your operating system.
Actually, it kind of raises the next thing, right? It's like, how do you know when it's time, right? Throughout my career, I'll be honest, I never planned, you know. I am like live it and go with the flow kind of guy, you know, and I just like, okay, I am very interested in this space. I learn about it and then develop myself in marketing, for example, right? And then that's where, back in the day, before social media came up, I was just very curious in that space. And what I did, Reinvention, my story was, I knew that was the space that's going to happen back then, right? Before the Facebook. And we can map that to the AI world today, right? You know? And I went to go study it like a student. And I created my own models. I created like my own whatever, frameworks, thinking, and I applied that to the role that I was in that job that I was in the company I was in. And I sold it. I said, hey, this worked. And then I had good partners and agencies that I worked with to kind of bring that to life, right? So that was how, I don't know how, I didn't plan for it. It's like, I just watched trends. So maybe it could be, is it how, from a work perspective, that's how it's shifting. Now I see, this is like really cool. I know that this is going to really change the way we do marketing or the way we do things, right? And then I go learn about it and I apply my own way of thinking in that business. And then as I go in my different roles, I use the fundamentals to go from there. But that's very career, topical, specific, right? I'm just using my own curiosity to learn, right? So very different from leadership, right? So topic specific, competency, like learning how to do marketing very well, for example. Was I a good leader? Wow, it's a journey. It's been like, I made like stupid mistakes. I would, and then you kind of learn from there. So that was how I approached work-specific reinvention, looking at trends. I knew that was coming. And you can talk about AI now, right? Like, you guys are very deep in that space in your work. That's my story. I don't know if you have stories to share in your own careers and how they transform. And maybe I can talk a little bit about what I'm doing now in my reinvention. Like, I'm in this whole different space I've never been in my career, right? But I'm leveraging all the 20 plus years of knowledge and then reconstructing and reinventing it towards and applying that in the work that I do now. So I don't know are there stories that you guys have from a work perspective, a topic perspective, maybe AI or how you work with clients?
Most of us are like that, right? I don't think we've got this manual written out somewhere that goes, this is my OS, right? But like you, at some point, okay, here's how I like to operate. Here's how I work with people. In my personal life, you wake up early, exercise, and that's all part of your operating system, right? A lot of how our operating systems are built is like I said, organically. Question is, at some point, we do go, learning by mistakes is good, but sometimes quite painful. And so as I go along, how do I start to codify some of these things so it becomes, I build
models and frameworks that you can,
a framework
repeatable.
Repeatable, but also helps me succeed a lot faster as well, right? Especially when you grow old. I mean, it's the same thing as, I think for me right now, I am looking at an operating system that covers, yes, definitely career and work, for example, personal life, right? Like how do I spend time with friends, family, and make sure that that's a priority and there's energy in there as well. But also I'm at a point in career where I also want to live a healthy lifestyle that's sustainable and allows me to have fun for many more years, right? And so all those things are going to be part of my new operating system to come, right? But like you say, in the past, a lot of it was it's learned from jumping into something and then just learning from mistakes, for example, right? And painful mistakes. And I think it's where some people do it very fast. Some people go, okay, I have a system. So I remember meeting Bill Gates because of work and as part of his whole entourage thing. And again, I was a small fry at that time. I remember very clearly him being very disciplined in terms of how he worked. He had a diary that was literally almost like a time box system, right? 5-minute blocks, right? This is when I wake up. This is when I exercise. After that, I'm going to call my wife and kids. After that, I'm going to have a quick breakfast. Like literally like that. But that was his operating system in order to get to his focus. And if you read what he does and all that kind of stuff, he also splits his days and months by themes. Like today is going to be about OS. Next day is going to be about international work. Then I think he has a 2-week retreat every year that goes into thinking about the future and all that kind of stuff, right? But all those things becomes part of his operating system, right? Jeff Bezos has his, I need to wander around for an hour every day before I do anything thing. And again, that's his operating system, right? So some of us, we go by it organically and things evolve, but sometimes you go, okay, I'm going to codify this and it's part of something I continuously want to do.
It becomes a habit, like you have the routines, you have the habits. So just kind of bringing your story, right? It's a lot of self-awareness, right? It's just super self-aware of what will help you thrive and what will limit your thrive limit your capability to be most successful.
Yeah.
Right. So having that self-awareness, knowing that you need downtime, you need to time block, you need to do whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you are always priming yourself to be at your best. What you can control, like a bit like what Paul was saying, like what you can control.
Control the controllables.
Yeah, control the controllables. Then when you are ready to go for a meeting or to do a performance or do whatever, you are like there, you know, you are mentally ready.
Yeah.
You know? Not mentally and emotionally, I'm not talking about the knowledge. That's bread and butter. You need to know your shit, basically, right? Before you do anything good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's a fixed definition to or how people think about their operating system, but to me, it's about how you make decisions at the end of the day, right? I mean, even for a computer operating system, it's about which task do I do first and how fast do I do a certain task. That's how operating systems are.
Which tasks are important enough to do.
So if you think about us, our limitations are, again, time, attention, energy. That's our limitations in a day. Yeah. And so it's like what you say, right? Like we have these habits that allow us to go, when I need to make a decision, do I focus on this or focus on that? Do I downtime versus work harder?
Yeah.
How do I make decisions is what your OS is built on.
That's called experience.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It could be.
It's not experience.
Yeah, it's a system. I mean, you have to think about inputs. I mean, this is a good frame, right? Think about inputs and outputs, right? So like, we talk a bit about what do you want in life, right? So for me, I've kind of crystallized that to three key things, right? Health, people I love, people I can, relationships, and then like just my mission, right? And the mission can be a lot of things. Can be work, can be your own things, side. These are the three things that sit at the top, right?
Yeah.
Those are the outputs that I want, and I want to make sure that I have time for that. Then your inputs, actually, if you think about it, and Ben just mentioned, it's time that you have. And I think if you think about it, the equation is actually time and money, because we spend a lot of time focusing on trying to make money. And then actually realize as you get older, you spend some money trying to buy back time, right? So you have time, money, and then the double kick to that is energy, attention, because you might have time, but you just not burn out, right? So from the inputs to the outputs, in between that, how do you build in sort of these processes and tools and muscles to be able to get to where you want to? And a lot of it could be then like rituals that you have, habits that you build, tools that you use that might save you some of these times, and mindset to help you sort of control the controllables, right? Like how do you think about this? How do you make better decisions? Are some decisions not even necessary? Things like that, so that you can get to this higher order thing that you've defined. For me, those are the three things.
I don't think it's always discipline. I mean, some of the interesting examples across history I really like, right, is how do people succeed even if they live like that? Right? You
exactly.
think about people like, but again, if you, underneath it, they have a system. They have a decision-making models. They have their framework. But people like, you think about people like C.S. Lewis, for example, drinks late, smokes like crazy, right? Wakes up late, but brilliant when it comes to writing. Winston Churchill was the same thing, right? I mean, again, wakes up late, has a nap in the afternoon, drinks his whiskey until late at night. I mean, you would think about people like that, go, there's no discipline, but then underneath that, that's his operating system. I choose that because I know that fits within how I work and how I think and how I operate and how I make decisions.
That's interesting, because actually all of us, as we are born, obviously we learn stuff as we were young, but you think about it, like none of us have our own operating manual. It didn't come with us when we were born. Some of these things are encoded in you. Like for example, your character, your certain principles, right? Like some things that you value. You know, you think about strengths and you talk about like Myers-Briggs. Like some of these things are encoded in you. Like maybe you're more introverted, extroverted. Certain things give you more energy. Certain things sucks energy. And then part of that is that, okay, if this is where I want to get to, or things that I want to be able to accomplish in my life, then how do I need to upgrade my OS or work within these things? But some of these things you can't change them because they are intrinsic within you. Some things you can maybe learn and unlearn, right? Like we talk a little bit about education. Like I find that when I started work, a lot of stuff, I spent a lot of time actually unlearning what I've learned in school, just I can do things better at work, right? So I think there's the process of understanding the operating manual that came with you, and then what do you need to do in terms of upgrading, adding on, removing stuff that forms your operating system.
How do you think that we can apply this to like work? You know, we're talking about life, making decisions, you know, and then at work, you got all sorts of different people, different characters, everyone being there for different reasons. Like some people just, okay, I just go to work, get my paycheck, I'm done, I'm fine with that. Some people like, I really want to become like the CEO of the company, you know, or I want to lead a team. and all that. And is there a difference living your personal life, and then do you have how does it work from a career work perspective, in a day in the office? So the question would be, we've spoken a lot about personal reinvention, knowing yourself, your self-awareness and all that, applying to your daily life to be more successful. If you kind of take that and put it in the office, well, maybe it's the same thing, maybe it's different. Like, how would you operate in the office, or the OS of the operating your professional side of your OS? How's that like? How would that be? What is the relationship between your personal and your corporate or working OS?
I think to me it's universal. I mean, I'm not sure, about you guys, but I think one of the things that you realize is everybody has a very different view of the world, right? And to your point, that then affects how they look at themselves, how they look at what they want to achieve. And then to the point, some people want to move on and be CEO, some people just treat this as a job, right? Certain things are value to them. And our worldview is, as I understand it, is pretty much constructed by the story we tell ourselves in our head, right? And Ben and I spoke about this, I think, last week, where a lot of our worldview is contingent on two things, right? What makes us happy? So we tell our story that we believe that story because it makes us happy. And then secondly, we tell ourselves a story that, can reasonably predict what the future will look like, because we don't like uncertainty, right? So we tell ourselves this story, and therefore you have people who have very different perspectives of, topics that are sensitive, like religion, politics, but also like how they look at work, right? So I think being able to understand that there's a different worldview is important. And we also spoke about this phenomena where, how you watch all the Marvel films and, there's this idea of a multiverse. And it is interesting because technically, if you think about it, a multiverse kind of exists because there is a Gerald that you view yourself, there is a Gerald that I view of you, and there's a Gerald that he views of you, right? So technically, there are various versions of yourself that exist in this world. And I think this is important because I think to understand that people's starting points and end points are not the same, right? To your point, not everybody wants the same thing, and it's probably important to kind of understand, where they come from. And I think the important, at least a gauge for me right now, is that just being able to agree to disagree sometimes because, certain views might be different because they come from a different worldview from yours, but also being able to understand that, certain things don't make sense, but it makes sense in the context of the story that this other person is telling themselves.
So the concept of stories that you tell yourself, and the concept of stories that you believe in.
But I think the other thing to that is that you can change the story you tell yourself. The narratives can change. And I think that's a powerful belief once you start to think about it, right? You can, a lot of times we tell ourselves negative stories and then that shifts our world.
Right.
Or limits your world, right? Stories are like hypnotizing yourself in some ways. Like, you think about people like Elon Musk. In some ways, right? It's like
it is.
The story you tell is what you believe, and if you keep telling it, that almost becomes a real system, right? Like, I'm going to Mars one day, right? And that's a story he tells himself, and it becomes real, right? But the opposite can be true as well. You say, "Oh, I'm not very good at that thing. I'm not very good at being a leader," and you keep telling yourself that, "Oh, I'm not a very good leader. I'm a shy person," to you. And it becomes real to you.
Even though other people can't see it.
And it translates into action as well, right? And so, which is why sometimes codifying these things allows you to see those gaps, like you say, and go, okay, I need to fix that. Right? Rather than just keep having those.
Part of the upgrade for the OS is changing the narrative in your head. And once you change the narrative in your head, everything sort of changes accordingly.
I think I've come to believe that and my personal belief is you shouldn't have two different OSs. One is exhausting. To have those things, right? It's like almost living two lives. It's almost like using Windows at work and going home to Mac, right? Oh, exhausting to transfer files here and all that. Right? I do believe that as you mature and you get experience, the best conclusion and the easiest one, most seamless one is that you have an operating system that works across. Right? And I believe that, which means that your value systems should be across both, and you start to see, things that are friends, group of friends, your work that goes, okay, everything is in line with the values that I believe in. Like, to me, when you look at operating system at work and outside work, that's what I believe. But like you say, I think as a leader, when I look at people, I do believe that everybody does have different operating systems, right? I think as you go into a workplace, you have to realize that that's not your personal home also. So, so the operating system of the organization, I mean, at some point you have to go and say, okay, I subscribe to that operating system, or I subscribe to that enterprise value, for example, right? Otherwise, you will continue to have that struggle internally.
Misalignment.
It's a good point, right? So that's why I asked that question, because I've seen and met many people in my course of work that they are two very different people, and they explicitly say that. I can't
explicitly say what?
They are two different people. Explicitly, so obviously I can't name names and organizations. It's like, I am this person at home and with my friends. I know I'm like the direct opposite. So one person would be, for example, extremely strict. The way she approaches things or whatever is just one style. But at home it's like, wow, different, very chill and all that. So therefore, it's, to your point, very difficult and very tiring, right?
Yeah.
You get in a space of just a lot of OS, Windows and Mac. It's very tiring, and it's not very sustainable in many
You can't be your authentic self in a way, because I recall, I mean, obviously in our course of work, we have interactions with different people like that, right? Where they are a certain type of person, then you know them personally, they're a very different type of person.
Yeah.
And it's all these conversations I have is actually, it feels like they have also decided that at work, I need to take on this persona as a means of, this is how I deal with it. And I can then compartmentalize what happens at work this way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my personal opinion is that it's very hard to be able to thrive in these kind of organizations where you have to take a different persona.
Yes. Yeah. It's not very sustainable. It's very tiring. But if you go and really dig deeper, right, it stems from a lot of just your relationship with work, relationship with people, relationship with a certain gender. It goes that, right? And then how you handle that, maybe you are shifting towards that just because it's your safe space. You either fight, flight, or fawn, this kind of psychology kind of terms. I'm not the expert, but that's how you are thinking about it. And therefore, if you ask many people on the audience, or if you speak with some people, you might come across people who are like two different peoples, two different individuals at work and at home when you do them separately. Purposeful or not purposeful, up to you. We're not judging here. It might work very well for some others who have become very, very successful in that operating model.
Correct.
But then if you choose to subscribe to that, then fine, that's great. It works for you. Right? It will also in different individuals.
I agree. I don't think it's wrong.
It's not wrong.
And I don't think that it's the only way to do it, right? I've seen a lot of people succeed.
Yes.
Or continue to do it.
Yes.
It stems back to what we say. It's sometimes it starts from something like what you say, right? It's something happened.
Your relationship with something.
Relationship with something, or something you were told, rightly or wrongly. And then it becomes a story you tell, right? Whereby, the story in my head is that in order to succeed, my home life and my work life must be completely separate, for example. Or that's how I achieve balance. And it's a story you tell yourself over and over again. It becomes your value, it becomes your principle and way of working. Is it wrong? No. Do we know a lot of people like that? No. But I do find that it is limiting. That especially when you become a leader, it's so hard to become authentic and have real relationship with people if you live two lives.
I know who you're talking about.
No, I know many people like that, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Very, very good point. And therefore, the work that I do, it's really that gap. You just mentioned it exactly spot on. It's you cannot be an authentic leader if you're just not really self-aware of who you are. And because leadership is a very different space already. You're not just operating as an individual contributor. You want to be a leader that really leads, inspires, and when you charge up a hill, you look back at people following you. You want to look back and say, like, there's nobody. So how can you lead authentic? And because that level of commitment, the level of thinking, the level of human interaction, the level of knowledge, competency, and working with big organizations and many people, you have to come across who are you, unless you're very good at becoming an actor, right? But as you operate, people see it. People human beings are very sensitive beings in some ways, right? So I think the authentic leadership piece really stems from I think that's to me that the OS uplifter is. You can be like split personality. In my view, personal view is to a certain level or to a certain space. But if you want to be a leader and really inspire and grow others, then you need to be really good at who you are.
You can't be the leader that says the sun rise when I wake up because I wake up.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the other election code.
Right. Yeah. So that's so true. And then I think leadership. Then therefore, many of the leaders that I respect and work with so far are just themselves. So I will work under that person because he or she is great.
Yeah.
It's just because they're who they are, man.
Yeah. I mean, you ask who am I talking about? Me.
Yeah.
And at some point, I'm sure I was like that, right? And you go, I don't want to bring my flaws from this to this other life. I don't want to bring my flaws from this to this other life. Yeah. And that's how you start. But then, like you say, at some point, being authentic, being true, allowing people to see your flaws and how you learn from your flaws and how you grow from your flaws, for example, is what a leader is made of.
Yeah. The other thing that in my mind is also like, I mean, and this is, I guess thinking about this, you're talking about like different types of leaders, right? I find that best leaders are always like, there are people out there who have a very old construct of leadership, which is this is like command and control.
Yeah.
Like when I get to that point of being a leader, then everybody needs to follow me.
Yeah.
And then there are the leaders that get there and go like, it's like a servant leader.
Yeah.
It's sacrificial. You're there to actually protect people. You actually have to sacrifice yourself versus the other way where people are just like sacrificing themselves for you to gain some benefit, right, as a leader. So I think, I'm thinking of someone specifically, but yes.
Want to know who?
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting, right? So leadership is a great space, a good topic. I think we can definitely expand on this as we go also. Like, so what I've realized is this also. Like, as I work with many people these days, a lot of them follow how they were led before. And if they don't really filter or think through if their leadership style is working with their new team, then they're just applying something that they've just taken from a previous two leaders and just using it, the style, the language, the way they operate. And I've seen things not go so well in that state.
Actually, that's like another good point because there's also organizational differences. Like some organizations, you realize that they hire like a leader from an established company, then into a startup culture, and it's very different.
Yeah, different, very different.
Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah.
I think leadership is a journey. From my perspective, having an executive mentor, a coach, really helped me a lot. Because what I realized when I was in my 30s or late 20s, 30s, I had no benchmark of what a good leader was. Yeah, you read books, but it's about experiencing it, right?
Yeah.
So I had good bosses and really shit bosses.
Both you can learn stuff from.
Yeah, both I learned from.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I don't aspire to be that. That style is not my style, but it could be his or her style. Therefore, I felt it was like really shit leader, right?
You can learn what not to do, like become
And then I've really worked with leaders who I can see myself in that leader also.
Yeah.
You kind of map that kind of OS or like the chemistry. And what for me, I definitely thought a lot because I love leadership, right? And the topics around leadership, in the military and in organizations. Therefore, I pay attention to it. Like, wow, okay, this one, that style, okay, what did that person do that really inspired the team to really drive excellence, but yet not leave dead bodies behind. You're excelling like a sports team, you're excelling, driving performance, but you don't need dead bodies. But people are still inspired to work for this. But okay, we cannot make everybody happy, but there's this threshold. We'll do more. And what I've learned is I've seen junior leaders just follow. My boss used to be like that. I just follow, and therefore you see cracks. And then they will widen.
Yep.
And you can close those gaps if you are able to learn how to navigate like what you've done and be very reflective as a leader. So that was my journey. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that's the topic was learning leadership from others before, and then how do you be more authentic as a leader as you shine your leadership skills or your leadership to your team.
Yeah, I mean to the point around building your organic OS, I think that's what we do, right? We either emulate good leaders and say that's traits I want to do and I want to follow, and sometimes even language we borrow and replicate.
Yes.
Or we go, here are the leaders I don't want to do, and therefore I completely say that's not the way I want to do it, right? And that's how we typically organically grow. I think the other aspect we often forget is then who am I as a leader and who's my authentic self, right? And also on the flip side, what's working, what's not working. Because sometimes good leaders or rather good people who are great at relationships, great with empathy, for example. But sometimes you see the way they run the business and the business is absolutely shit.
Yeah.
For example, right?
Yeah.
So how do you correlate that, right? As somebody who's great, you want to follow him, you want to have lunch with him. Every time you talk to him, he makes you feel better, for example, makes you feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
But the business is failed and therefore everything goes down.
To your point last time, leadership is there's still a mission that you need to
Correct.
get. Yes.
Correct, right? Yeah. And so I think that balance needs to come.
And it comes with a lot of self-awareness and just the being very sharp, right? On knowing that the mission is to still grow the business.
Yeah.
Am I hiring the person or just because I care so much, but is he or she like the really key person that's going to really transform the business?
Yeah.
So those are the difficult decisions that you need to make eventually also, right? Like, okay, this person really good, like, but he or she may not be at this point now that is going to take us to where we want to go.
Yeah.
Like, because I care so much as a hardcore empathetic leader, it can be a blind spot.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're aware of that blind spot, like, okay, I know, but at the end of the day, I am still responsible for the P&L of growing the business to my shareholders, then you need to make a call. Right, and that's where you are. The level of how you apply your leadership skill to someone who may not be part of that journey from an organization perspective. They have that conversation, how do you train? How do you reassign? How do you shift? I don't know. All these things happen, and the reality is businesses move very quickly.
Yeah,
and if you're not going to be part of that narrative, you be part of the wake car. Then how do people keep up? How do employees keep up? How do we, as leaders, bring people on this journey with us, right? And not just say, oh, too bad, you're outdated, let's move on.
Correct.
It's tricky, sensitive topics, but I think it's important to talk about it because the reality is that.
Yeah.
Right? And you guys are so experienced in the space, so I mean, I'm sure there are great examples and stories that you've seen.
I mean, I use a very simple framework for that, right? When I look at someone who's struggling or not performing to what the expectations or requirements is expected of him or her, I go, is this person unwilling?
Yeah.
Unable?
Attitude,
or just unaware of the expectations of
I love that.
his job, right?
I love that.
Unwilling, then very hard, right? And then go, okay, maybe you're good at what you do and go, we allow you to do that and that's what you do. But sometimes unwilling is also seasons in life. There's some people who go, look, I don't want more responsibility. I want to do what I want. And that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
Unable, we got to go, why? Right? And is this a real challenge? Is this the wrong job, wrong fit? Competency. And sometimes that happens as well. And you got to go have real conversations with this person. I think unaware is where it becomes really interesting, right? Like most people, because you organically go through an organization, you get promoted from it, you don't really stop and check and don't have those conversations. Hey, I'm now a manager. What do you expect from me? What's my job, right? What do you expect from me now? What do you expect from me in a year? What do you expect in 2 years? And you go, and then also, how do I help you get there? How do I help you drop the bad habits or rather previous operating model? It was when I was a associate or whatever that is, and then how do I build new habits in order to succeed as this thing and get to what you require me to be in a year, right? And so that's how I
love that. I love that. The unaware,
unable, unwilling,
and unaware. Fantastic. I think this is a very great way to talk about. Like, therefore, the career conversations or these conversations need to happen. Because like you only know when you see someone's either underperforming, and then you need to have that conversation with the individual to further understand, like, okay, which category is that, and so that you are, as a leader, you know how to then approach it, right? Is it a competency skill gap thing that we need to fix or we need to address? The unwilling one is, okay, if you're not willing, then to your point, I just had someone started a family. Like it's going to be very busy.
Send my kids to school.
All these things happen. So therefore, it's such an intricate piece when you work with. Imagine you have 50, 100 people, right? Therefore, the leadership role is not an easy one.
No,
it's so difficult. But I like how you are framing that. And therefore, as a leader, how do you approach conversations like that? When I was younger, I'm very afraid of these conversations because like I may not know how to handle them as well. As I get older, okay, I learn through the true learning, through mentors and all that. So many times when I had conversations with employees on my team, it's like performance, pure performance.
Yeah.
Hit your KPI, not how is it going, you know? The real conversation is like, actually, how is things at home and how are things at home?
Exactly.
You know, how can I help you? And that way you get an understanding.
Yeah.
Can I fix it immediately? May or may not. But awareness is there, like, at least, you know. That's what I learned, actually.
I mean, I was speaking to someone who I mentor, and he was looking at jumping from one position to another position. And he said, look, I don't want to do that because I've got a young kid.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't think that I would be able to fulfill the requirements of that role. Now, we could have done that and say, okay, fine, let's talk in 2 years, right? But then there's also worth asking, what do you think the requirements are? And what do you think the barriers are? Because sometimes the barriers are in your own head, right? Oh, I think that role, I need to work 14 hours a day. Oh, I think that role, I need to travel 5 days a month, or two weeks out of a month, for example. And sometimes those barriers are in your head, and sometimes those barriers can be solved, right? Meaning that you can make the jump if we start to unravel the story that's untrue that if you build for yourself, right? And build a whole new model that allows you to succeed or get to where you need to succeed as well. So I think there's the KPIs that you talk to people through, but then what are the stories underneath it is also very important.
Yeah, so then with that KPI and then the stories, then you need to establish standards. What would be like good enough? What would be like, just having that honest conversation on how that would really play out for someone.
Yeah.
It's not easy because at the end of the day, employees are human beings and we all have our own stories. Everyone's an individual and these decisions will impact someone's life.
Yeah.
So therefore I always say, like, leadership is not taken lightly, man. Like, you are responsible for many, many things for individuals and as well as the company itself. Yeah.
If we flip this around, because we've been talking about it from a standpoint of a leader.
Yeah.
What if we think about it from like just people who work under just challenging leaders? How would that work? Like, how do you, a piece of advice that we can give, right? Because I think all of us came up with moments like that where you work under people where you go like, okay, this is not the kind of person that I want as a leader, or this is not the kind of person I want to be, right? Like, I mean, my proxy is always, when I join any organization, I always look up and say, is there anybody I want to become like? And if there isn't, then that's a red flag immediately.
That's a good question. Like, if I were to be in this, like the scenario is flipped, basically, right?
I mean, I think just thinking about like maybe people watching who are in those positions, right? Sometimes you just power through it and go like, okay, it's a job and I need to do this. Are there other ways around it, I guess, besides leaving the company, which may eventually happen because there's only so much you can probably like tolerate or sustain over time, right? Is there a frame around that?
I mean, for me, it's a couple of things, right? One is true values, right? Are your values and your leaders' values aligned? And I'm talking about things like even transparency, honesty, and things like that, right? I mean, if it really goes against your value system, then that's a point where you go, is this right for me? And then am I under the right leader, right? That's one point. I think similarly that how I would look at a person that works with me, I think I apply the same thing to people I work under, right? What are the intentions, right? And what's behind some of the language and action? Does it come from a good place? And I think a lot of time it does. But the way that I interacted with my previous manager was maybe very nice, very personal, gentle, for example, might be very different. So I can't apply that to my new leader as well, right? But I have to go behind and go, what's the intention and how are you saying this? Are you coming from a good place, right? I remember my first boss when I joined the agency for the first time. First day, she said, can you please write your bio, right? And so that I can send it to the APAC leadership and introduce you. Right? And this was first day, probably the first half of my first day, right? She said, do that. I typed it out, bio, easy, right? Typed it out, send it to her. She said, no, this is not good enough. Try it again, come back. Right. This doesn't say anything about what you do. Try it again, come back. We did this, I promise you, for at least 10 to 12 times, right? Back and forth. I'm like, first day, first half of the day, you sound like a Nazi. I'm not sure this is right for me and all that. But we got to the end of it, right? And she said, okay, this is great. Now can you please go and send it to all these people, APAC leaders? After that, at the end of the day, she called me into her room and she explained to me why, right? She said, one, right? She was English boarding school grad, right? Every communique it's an opportunity to sell. And this email was about you selling yourself to the regional leaders. Secondly, we needed to be clear about what you do, what your value is. So next time when they have a new business, they can call you up and be very clear about what. And so when I understood that, I'm going,
intentions are good.
Intentions are there.
Yeah.
There's a care to it.
Yes.
I also knew her values when it comes to quality and etc. And I go, and that completely changed my mindset.
Yeah.
Right? I could have gone, shit, this is crap. You're going to do this every other piece of work that comes to your desk from me. Next time, I'm done on day one, right?
Yeah.
But instead, trying to understand where she came from really, really helped me. And today, some of her values are ingrained.
Yep.
Yeah, I know who. But and what the story is because your leader cared, and she took the time to explain.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's not just go do it then leave it.
Yeah.
But there is like that in her mind is like putting you through this, and she there was an intention to call you back in to set this up for you again. Then you're like, wow, you see the learning.
Yeah.
If she didn't do that, I think you'd be like, screw you, man.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like every piece of work I'm going to go through 20 times, then therefore then it becomes the thing, right?
And she's a person not many people can work under because of that kind of rigor, discipline.
Interesting.
But I thought of it from, okay, I'm going to learn.
Yes.
I'm going to get better because of this, right? So I think that thinking is useful.
So therefore your attitude was, I'm here to, maybe I would learn something out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So just kind of get to that.
Correct. So to the point of how working under different and difficult leaders. I guess one is I wouldn't apply same standards, right?
Yes.
This is a leader I liked in the past and go, therefore I'm going to find this in every leader. That won't come true.
You don't have to have a nice leader. I think that's that's not the proxy for good leadership, right? It's really about intentions and what is the bigger goal or mission. Like my other litmus test is actually, will I go to war with this person?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you, like this is a difficult person, but then you can feel the leadership. Yeah. You're like, I will go to war with this person.
Yeah.
And I think that's the limits I have. Obviously, there are hits and misses, right? But ultimately, to your point, you can always learn from a leader, whether is it learn what to do or what not to do. And then obviously the other part is, if it's not ultimately aligned with your values and long term, then it's really about like, what else can I gain from this experience? And then once you get it, then if there's no other upside, then
I've through the years learned that I need to work in an environment. So from an employee standpoint, right? I need to work in an environment that I have a lot of empowerment.
Yep.
I need to just do my thing, and let me do my thing, and empower me to run it, have my back. Obviously, I'll update you along the way. I do not work well for people who are just constantly micromanaging. I mean, I'm sure that nobody wants to work under a micromanager. Maybe some people do. Some people like to be instructed, and I've seen that happen at work also. Like, actually, Gerald, just tell me what to do lah. I'm better that way. Yeah, I've seen that and I heard that, And like, okay, so that's your operating model and that's how you all work, then fine, but that doesn't really help me, and if it's you hire people to make the team elevate, right, and grow.
AI will replace these people first.
I don't know, so therefore what, from my experience has been, it's just, again, like I'm more of like an explorer in many things that I do. If you guys don't know me personally, and that's how I operate, right? My OS is like, I explore, I try and get experiences from there. But I've then realized as I sharpen the thinking was, I need a space to be just like, let me do my thing. Therefore, I thrive better in that space. But I've learned from good leaders who allow me to give me that space, but also like guide me and sharpen my skills and tell me that this is how you could do it better. And therefore, it was always a growth experience. Yeah. And I have experiences also where it's less of a growth experience because I think it just be like the culture, the thinking, the mindset is just very different and not so aligned with how I operate. So like the operating system, Mac and Mac goes well, okay, good. We can become, But if it's Mac and OS, can also. Maybe something special can come out of it. So again, it's just really the attitude, how you take it, right? Nothing is, I've been through roles where I was absolutely miserable. You guys probably know that. And absolutely miserable. But that said, you discover so much about yourself and okay, now this is a space I know that not for me, maybe.
Just like we talked about, you discover what you don't want to do or what are non-negotiables,
exactly.
right?
So I think, I don't know, there's no answer, to anyone watching and listening. I think it's just like how do we frame this up, right? It's just like, understanding yourself, your OS, how you operate, what you know you're thriving in, playing to your strengths. And I think, as I think about it, like the courage. The courage. Reinvention takes courage also, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So one of the points that resonated from episode 1 with some people that got feedback from was about being proactive in your reinvention or change, right? So maybe pivoting to the point around how do you know when it's time? Not necessarily like to change jobs or whatever not, but how do you know when it's time to have an upgrade or have a reflection or have some kind of change, right? Like how you guys always looked at that when you go, okay, it's time to do something about it or adapt or revise or whatever not.
Good question.
I mean, for me, it's very simple. When I get too comfortable about something, that's when I go like, okay, I need to change.
Yeah.
I feel uncomfortable saying this, but it is, to me, one of the key skills of life is learning how to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So, and doing that is you have to like, okay, I'm very comfortable at this. I can do this really well.
Yeah.
I need to move on.
Yeah.
And find discomfort. In the everyday. I mean, we had this conversation briefly also. Like the way I do it now every day is, as part of my operating system, is I take a cold shower in the morning. A very cold shower in the morning because it's very uncomfortable. But then it teaches my body that after the first 20 seconds, right, it's okay already.
So once you get comfortable with the cold shower, what do you do?
I mean, but it's a daily reminder for me at least. But to me, it's like when I get comfortable, then it's about finding other things that I'm not saying you just pivot away from what you're doing, but like what can I add on? How can I get a bit more uncomfortable or add a bit of discomfort such that it helps me build my immunity, right, to whatever changes that might happen that are not within my control. Yeah.
Well, and what's that process like? Is that like a gradual thing and then suddenly you go, I'm so comfortable in this, I got to make a change? Or is it more the moments of reflection that you put in?
I think reflection is probably the key way or the key sort of stimulus that this happens. Like, so sometimes you have to like bake that into your daily life, like moments of slack where you can think about stuff and you go like, but I think a lot of it's also triggered by stimulus because obviously the world's evolving. So once you have like, you get new intake of information, you go like, oh, actually this kind of changes the way I look at certain things and you go like, okay, maybe I need to add this on, right? To Gerald's earlier point, we don't know how to do a lot of things. Like, and I say this very candidly, like in a lot of what we do, how do you think consulting people figure out how to do stuff? You have to, a lot of these things are white space, very new things. And it's not about the domain or subject matter. It's actually the way to think about stuff, the way to add on to the way you operate or the way you think, right? The tools, the decisions. And then I think a lot of it is the ability to synthesize what these new inputs are with how you really think about or how you really work. And then you go like, okay, I'll keep what works and then discard the rest.
Yeah. That's interesting. So for me, I get bored very easily. I am extremely curious about what the future is always like. Therefore, I'm always rethinking like, I'm just naturally very curious of what the future is going to be like. So therefore, when I get to a point in my work or career, like, okay, I'm kind of bored. I'm not learning anything new. And I have an idea of what I'm seeing that I feel that I can get to. And that is what helps me think about what's next. Yeah, and that's been a bit of a constant in my career as I reflect back. Yeah, it's always like I get bored easily, so doesn't mean I'm not interested in my current role when I'm bored. But it's like, okay, I get bored because I am curious of what the next chapter would be like in a specific topic, or even on life in the whole.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, okay, I get very curious and I start getting information. I start drawing information for talking to people like you guys or friends I know or experts in the spaces I know to form a perspective. And once I form a perspective, this is my operating thinking, if I'm able to form a very clear, sharp perspective, I will then know what actions I need to take to either evolve, both career and also inner work. Like, myself, we're all human beings. We all get our insecurities, like, oh, what do I need to feel? How do I need to get more confident in the new things I'm doing? Yeah. So that's
make
what
it to make it.
Or a little bit of like practice that you can become good now. So to me, is like the futurist mindset has always been what drives my curiosity. I'm like, wow, I'm curious. And then, but the thing is, I do not know what are the components. Right? I know I have a vision vaguely. Then I just go and find information. I talk to people. And just start forming a perspective. To me, the forming of a perspective is like a very integral moment, because if you are, and this perspective can always be evolving. It doesn't really cast in stone. Right?
Yeah.
So once you're able to articulate the perspective, then you know you are sharpening your thinking.
Yep.
You're able to articulate it. You're able to explain it. Then you know getting somewhere. And then from there, I will realize, okay, actually this is like a great place for me to go into. Be it a hobby, be it something I'm interested in, be it a career that I want to pursue because it's kind of building on what I'm doing. But yeah, just broadly life. That's what interests me the most, and that's how I look at the timing of changing or starting the momentum of that. And then slowly the transition might happen, and then we go into that space. So that's how I think. That's how I work. How about you?
I think it really depends, Like, I think there are a lot of times changes in life comes when the volcano erupts.
Okay, so when that happens, yeah,
external stimulus,
right? External stimulus.
External, yeah.
And I think that's how a lot of things happen, right?
Yeah.
But I also have a system in place, and for a long time now, where I am quite tapped into what the first movers are talking about.
Yeah.
Right. So I kind of know
All in.
that, but for this is for years now, right? And so then I go, because I'm never a first mover, I'll admit that, right? But I'm tapped into some first movers for years. And then I go, I hear things, and then I hear things repeatedly, and I go, okay, I sense
Something there.
directional, right? And then I go, okay, I got to go in. So I have this thing where I write every year, here are the 3 things I want to learn about. Like, things that I'm hearing, and I go directionally and go, I know nothing about this space, and I'll write like GPT before it became chat.
Like loyalty.
Like loyalty. Yeah, even that, right? Yeah. For a long time, like loyalty. And I'll go, okay, this the 3 things I want to really get deep into this year, right? Then the question is, what do I do about that? Can I explore those spaces where I am, or do I need to be somewhere else explore those spaces? So that's cool. So that's a system I've kind of done. I would admit sometimes I take the easy way out in the past and go, all right, making change where I am is too hard, right? I'm just going to go try a different place, right? And I think these days I am in a position where I can make slightly more change and influence the different things, but I'm trying to not jump ship or rather jump from the burning boat too fast and go, okay, can I make the change happen here where I am? Here, not just being work, but okay, in this position or using this OS, for example, versus then completely clearing up my notion and starting anew, for example, right? I think that's where I am today. But I think it's to be honest, it's a balance of both things, right? It's one, just sensing, hey, there's some change coming in and I need to be either part of that or I will lose out, right? And sometimes, I mean, look, there's also different parts of your life, right? In some parts you're probably more in tune with, and other parts of your life where you go, shit, there's a volcano erupting, I better run, So I think it's part
a lot of it's
that.
also FOMO lah. Like you have some sense of, hey, something's happening, then I need to be kind of part of it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's part of the Singapore mentality of like being a bit kiasu, but it's also the case where we talked a bit about this. Right? You want to be able to have self-affected reinvention and change, and some of it's hard. But when you do that, you know you can do the hard things when actually something happens.
Yeah.
And then you have no control, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of the muscles that you have to sort of build, right? You have to go to a degree of exhaustion and then push through it. Yeah.
I mean, Tiger Woods, for example, right? I mean, through the years, he's adjusted his swing because of age and health and fitness and all that, right? I mean, he could have gone, this is my swing, this is my winning swing, and I'm going along, but he'd go, okay, I'm sensing I'm getting older, right? Guys are hitting younger, or even the clubs are evolving, for example. How do I evolve my swing in order to do it rather than stick to what works? And I think that's the hardest part, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it works.
Yes.
How do I not stick to what works? How do I pivot? I think that's the big question.
Yeah, I think it's you look at people going through their years of work, 19, 20, 21, 30, 40, 50, and that the way you swing your club's different, right? And this is a great analogy of like as an individual going through your career, you may not be swinging it as hard and as fast when you were 19, but in your 50s, you could swing it in a way where it's just equally effective, but you do it in your own style. That means you maybe take more breaks in between. I don't know, whatever works for you, and as you hear that story come through, we all have different starting points. You come from we have different starting points. You have a view, I have a view, you have a view, and everyone listening will have a different view of starting points.
Yeah.
So what's your starting point, and knowing where you're starting from and building from there, I think it's something to reflect on.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the athletes that compete beyond the average age of athletes, like people like Tom Brady, LeBron James. Right now, you will see them updating their OS, right, in order to compete effectively at that age, right? Tom Brady had his TB40 system whereby you go, in order for me to compete at 38, 39, 40, whatever that age is, he goes, I need to exercise differently, eat differently, move differently, for example, stay in the pocket more rather than run, and things like that, right? And it's the same thing, right? You can't expect to always behave the same way, even if you succeeded with that operating system, right? You have to evolve and you have to upgrade yourself, and you have to know your environment, your competition, and the world around you that's changing, and etc. I think that's and it's tricky to know when to apply that change.
Tougher.
But I think, like what you say, reflection always.
I think there are also sort of different tools and models you can use as part of reflection to think about it, right? So I think you talk about Tom Brady, like LeBron spends $1 billion on recovery and health every year just for longevity. But obviously, there's outsized returns in terms of the salary and the endorsements and stuff that he makes out of it.
Yeah.
But I think if you think about even simple to myself right now, as I get older, you have less energy with kids. And then you also when you start to play sports, you get older, you are not as quick and fast. And I play basketball. So there's certain ways to think about things that and that's part of the reinvention, not out of work, but also I use for example, Pareto's principle, 80-20 rule, right? Actually, you don't have to get to 100%. You just figure out the 20% that you can still do.
100%.
And then you get to 80%.
Yeah.
And that's good enough.
Yes.
At any level, right?
Yes.
There's also a principle of inversion, which I really like, which is how do you win by not losing? Right, which is actually, everything is a sports analogy, but the inversion idea is kind of interesting because if you think about tennis, right? Most professional tennis games are won. But then in amateur tennis, most games are lost. So the way to win in amateur tennis is to play not to lose rather than play to win. And I think those are things I ask myself every day right now. Like the inversion questions would be if I wanted to make this a terrible day, or if I want to make my life terrible, what would I do? And you just avoid those things.
Yeah.
Right. It's a much easier sell to your brain than trying to excel and things like that. So same thing that goes for playing sports. If I want to have a bad game, what would I do? And then just avoid doing those things. Right? If I want to have a bad day at work, what I do? Yeah. And then just not do those things, right? For example, sleep late and things like that. I mean, all the almost obvious things that you know, but this helps to tease it out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. For Snoop Dogg said this.
Let's go.
Preparation prevents poor performance.
Yeah.
I was watching, I think, The Voice or some
I like that. Snoop Dogg as well.
Snoop Dogg, yo.
And Mike Tyson said that everybody thinks they have a plan till they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
So the reinvention,
So I mean, that's why sports is such a great map towards business. It's like the perfect kind of correlation in a sense, right? You need performance, you need people. But you want it's all about performance actually and people.
Yeah.
And the results don't lie. It's about metrics, right? And how do we get everybody across the finishing line strong? How do we finish strong?
And there's also the idea of team sports versus single player sports. So there's quite a dynamic difference. How you think about it.
But actually one thing to note is individual sports have a big team of people around behind them also, right? Yeah. So it's just that the dynamics of a team sport is more apparent. Yeah, because you got a soccer team or a football team and all that, right? So very interesting conversation.
Yeah.
What tools have you used or software have you added to your operating system?
Wow.
What tools and software were added?
All software is question mark, quote unquote question, quote unquote.
Literal software, no, right?
No, I mean for example, ways that you started.
This question you He's buying time now.
Yeah, exactly. Let me buy time. Clearly you have an answer.
No, I'm just curious because that's kind of also how I think about it.
I don't have an answer also. Yeah.
Okay. Because to Gerald's point, part of it is just some level of, it's not really boredom, but a lot of times I just ask myself, is this it? Can this get better? How do a lot of my daily thoughts are now, how do I make life easier, right, for myself? How do I incorporate some of these thinking or software into this operating system that will make it easier, right? So we talk about the last time, the sort of broken windows, what is the lead domino that will affect a lot of things? So sleep is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Sleep.
Recently, I've been thinking, I've tried to apply this in both life and work, right? Which is I think this came from Tony Robbins. Yeah, Tommy Robbins and Tim Ferriss, right? Which is it's state, story, strategy.
State,
story,
Yeah.
strategy.
Tell us
which
more.
is the state in which you are in affects the story you tell yourself, which affects how you go about your day or strategy, right? So if a state is, you wake up in a terrible state, whether that's a late night out, whatever that is.
Yeah. Don't point at me.
Or you, or you just, sometimes you know how in the day you have like, you have very big ambitions for the day, but you just don't feel it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I think all of us go through that, right? So the state then affects this story you tell yourself, oh, this is too hard, like this is going to be a crappy day, this meeting's going to suck. And then that affects how you approach the day. So I thought this was a very interesting concept. And the important thing is actually to change your state first, right? And that can be anything. Maybe one of it is like simple as, can I move from where I'm working now to another location just to change the environment? For me, taking a cold shower works, or just go for a walk or exercise, like just change the state of mind. And once your state changes, then you can start to change the story in your head and story you're telling yourself. Why do I feel this way? Is there something? And actually, to your point, it's really about reprogramming the narrative that's anchored in you and stuck in you. And then from there, then you can affect the strategy, which is then like, what is one small action I can do to move this forward, right? Rather than trying to like, it's an immovable wall.
I do believe everybody's OS has a core to it, like a core behavior that everybody kind of builds around, right? I mean, Jeff Bezos, and what's the word he uses for it? His morning wanderings around. Most people have like, okay, I'll wake up at 6 o'clock, exercise, for example. Warren Buffett has he reads for 3 hours a day. Things like that. To your question, I'm trying to optimize for sleep. Right. So sleeping early, waking up early. This ring, for example, just to track it. And accountability and seeing how well I sleep. I've also I built like myself a tracker to look at how often I wake up and also the temperature in the room to see any correlation, things like that, for example. And then I started taking, this is not an ad, but AG1 as well, just as to optimize my nutrition intake and make it consistent. Helps when I travel as well. So to your question on what's the latest I'm doing, it's I don't think I have it, but I'm currently optimizing for sleep. Because sleep's going to help me manage the pre and post, right? If I sleep early, I'm going to be better for the day. I've got time for exercise. I've got time to read my papers. It also means that I can't drink at night. Also means I won't snack. I won't have too much screen time. So to me, if I optimize for that, a lot of things move for me.
I mean, like again, I go back to the quote, like a healthy person has many problems. A sick person only has one. And I think health is one of the big levers. Once you optimize for it, and once you try to it changes a lot of things, right?
And energy, energy. To me, it helps me manage my energy, and again, allows me to do things like exercise. And all that. So that's what I'm building as my core.
That's very cool. I mean, for me, it's energy management, which links to many facets, sleep and everything else. I'm not the best sleeper, honestly.
Same.
Terrible. My mind wanders. So for me, it's energy management, meaning that if I have a big event or a big presentation or a big thing, I will prepare so that I have best capacity to be successful whenever the moment arrives. And I want to do this repeatedly, meaning every day if I can. Right, so it's energy management. No one's perfect. Ben knows me very well. Also, like I slip up every now and then, and things fall apart. Right, it's not optimal. Right, but as much as possible, that's my mindset. Thankfully I've been exercising quite regularly since I was my early 30s, late 20s. I mean, I do marathons and running and all that. It's kind of gotten a little bit slower because I'm doing my own thing now. But that has always been a constant. For the past 15 years. Am I healthy? Don't know. No one, you never know, right? I mean, I just do my best lah. And my best. Diet, not the best, but I do my best lah. So for me, it's just energy management, so that I know when I have enough to throttle up, and I know when I need to throttle back down. Like last week, I was in KL for 3 days. 3-day workshops. Then I need to just not talk for 2 days. And then go up again. If I have back-to-back, sometimes business requires it, then I have even more purposeful. Okay, I know that I may not be at 110% tomorrow, and then I just need to prepare myself for mentally. There are days where you have to do back-to-back, right? You will never be 100%. Then I know I will give it my 100%, but it may not then you just best
If you have
manage it.
10% and you give it 10%, that's your 100%.
That's my percent. But it's like sometimes it's just energy level.
correct.
So that's more for my lifestyle management thing. The other aspect is from my OS perspective, right? Is knowledge. If you go, all my friends who know me and my wife and Ben knows me quite well. It's like I'm naturally not. I'm a very curious guy conceptually. But not like super, like you have a lot of models, right? And you guys are super learner in that sense, but I've never been that kind of guy, right? So I know myself very well. So therefore I have not accepted it yet, but I'm planning to do another degree on psychology and all that. So that's my OS shift, because if I were to think 20 years later, like, wow, I really want to learn this lah. Because all the things that we're talking about now is very cool, very interesting, but I feel that I just want to add a layer of science to it. And that's what that's driving me to behave this way lah. Success or not is individual. I'm not afraid of judgment. I just do my thing. Remember first episode, I always say I grew up thinking people always judge me, right? That's the first episode, right? But that's the two areas: energy levels and knowledge at this point, so that I can apply this to what I'm trying to do in the next 15, 20 years of my life.
I mean, side note is I recently learned this, and I'm trying to remember more and more that energy is a form of generosity we often forget.
I love that, man.
Sometimes we come to meetings or to coffee with someone, or meet my son for dinner, and you are exhausted. But coming to that meeting and meeting someone and to a workshop or whatever with energy is a form of generosity.
That is so good.
Forget it. And therefore, sleep and being prepared and making sure that you don't exhaust yourself before something is so important as well.
Because then you're giving, right? You're giving. If you're being selfish, I'm going to have 15 more beers tonight and 2 tequila shots, right? For example, then you're just being self-indulgent.
That seems oddly specific.
Because we've been out for drinks before, right? So I mean, we're all human beings and we all do that. And when, let's have a good time tonight. But then actually, who suffers tomorrow? Not only you, but the work that you do and the people that you work with. Like, wow, you're not 100% today, Gerald. Yeah, I know I had a big night, but then shame on you.
Cycle, so it just compounds.
Completely. And this is probably not the whole topic, but for example, I like doing one-on-one meetings first thing in the morning. Because first thing in the morning is when I'm a morning person also, most energy, and I'm not distracted by the rest of the day and emails, and also my 8 a.m. coffees are important. Things like that. So, but energy is especially in this age.
I'm actually different from you. For me, it's like I give my energy to the work that I do, the thinking. Then afternoon, I'm usually more sociable in the afternoon. That's how. But we all wired differently, like different OS. So the kind of understanding of how you operate, right, to best position yourself in situations. I feel that's what I've learned over the later part of my life. The younger part, I just go and whack. I will just jam. I just go. But I'm more purposeful. Right. So if that has, I feel, helped me, anxiety levels. Not so anxious because you're prepared. Things like that.
Can I just say one last point? I know we wrap up soon, but
it's good conversation today.
We think about iOS as more intellectual and mental and all that kind of stuff. But aesthetics are very important as well. Or rather. The physical self and aesthetics. So I was actually talking to this. I'll elaborate. I was talking to someone who feels like she was ready for the next level, right? And this is one high performer, right? She's young. She's going to have a really good career. She's smart as hell. And she goes, "Hey, Ben, I'm ready for the next level." And I was thinking about it, and I told her, like, look, if I throw any task at you next level, I know you will be ready for it, and you'll either be able to do it or you figure out how to do it and fit the shoes eventually, right? But I also want to make sure that when you walk into the room, people listen to you. You have some kind of gravitas. You're able to lead a team to do it. And so I said, yes, you're very good. You've probably got your mental and your intellectual part of the OS figured out. But okay, let's start working about how you present yourself, how you show up and all that. So I think to the point around our own OS, there's many aspects to it and not just the mental self.
Yes, like the executive presence, branding, the way you present, the way you do, the gravitas you hold. Like we should talk about that maybe next topic. It's a good one.
One last thing to add. Do you guys know about the Lindy effect?
No, of course.
So it's based on, I think Nassim Taleb covered it, right? So the whole idea that things that have stood the test of time will more or less continue to stand the test of time. So I think this is important because the concepts we talk about, like reinvention, like you always try to okay, we need to reinvent, we need to add on these things that are new. But there are constructs that are never changing, right? And some of you talk about like, reading, taking walks. Some of these constructs are always going to be there, right? They never change, and like, and funny, there's this thing called Lindy books. Basically, books that have stand the test of time. So there's a notion that everybody should read a Lindy book at any point of time, once in their life. But what I like about that the concept is that there are, as things change and reinvent, we just need to remember that certain things are. I mean, some of these things are fads. So you just and it's a bit hard because there's so much stuff being thrown at us these days.
Completely.
Yeah, you just look at stuff that is. I think it's also important to look at stuff that don't change and won't change. And I think that's how, in a way, Jeff Bezos did Amazon. Like, what are things that won't change the next 20 years? Like, people won't want lousy customer service; they will still want good customer service. So, what are these principles that remain the same? So don't just reinvent for the sake of like there's something new and shiny.
No, great. Good way to end.
Very cool. Well, gentlemen, good session. I really, it was fun having this conversation. We all have very different perspectives. I think that's what's very interesting. We have different starting points, different angles. So with that, I think we can call today a wrap. Just follow us on our usual socials. What you clap for what? Follow us on our usual socials. We'll leave all the stuff in the usual comments below, and we'll catch you real soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clap.